The things we work for, the things we earn, we value more. And that's true in love too. A woman who becomes addictive isn't one who's always there. She's someone who brings something beautiful to the table, but makes you meet her halfway. She doesn't pour out all her energy in hopes that someone will love her back. She pours into herself first. And from that fullness, she gives in a way that's generous, but never needy. That balance, that's magnetic. Let me put it this way. Think about your favorite song. Do you blast it on repeat every second of the day? Probably not. Because what makes you love it is that you choose to go back to it. That moment when you're driving and it comes on the radio and your heart lifts, that's not about constant presence. That's about impact in the right moment. The same is true for you. You don't have to be in his ear every second. You have to be the woman who lingers in his mind, even after the conversation's ended. That doesn't happen by flooding someone with your attention. It happens when you create space for him to feel, to wonder, to miss you, to want you. Because desire is born in that space. When there's room to imagine, to anticipate, to crave. And when you're not constantly filling that space for him, he gets the chance to realize what life feels like without you in it every second. And that's when the addiction begins. But let me be clear, this doesn't mean playing games. It's not about pretending you're busy when you're not, or ghosting someone just to create distance. That's manipulation. What I'm talking about is authenticity. You're busy because your life is already full. You're not available all the time because you have goals, friends, family, passions. You're not texting back immediately because you're present in your world, not just orbiting around his. And that's so attractive. When a man sees that you have a rich life, one that doesn't revolve around him, it subconsciously tells him, if I want to be part of this, I have to bring something to the table. I can't take this woman for granted. You're not begging for his time. You're not performing for his approval. You're simply being yourself, living well, and allowing him in when it feels right. That's the spark I'm talking about. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. Because a spark isn't about exploding, it's about enduring. It keeps him engaged. It keeps him leaning in, wanting to know more. And every time he does, he finds something new. A woman who's multidimensional, who's emotionally intelligent, who can laugh with him, challenge him, support him, but also walk away if she's not being met with the same energy. Think about how rare that is. Think about how rare it is to meet someone who doesn't just want attention, but commands it effortlessly, just by being deeply aligned with herself. That kind of presence is unforgettable. And the crazy thing, you don't have to try so hard when you're being that woman. You're not chasing, you're not performing, you're just being you in your highest, truest form. And in that energy, you become the spark that lights something in him that he doesn't want to lose. Now, some of you might be thinking, but shouldn't I show him how much I care? Absolutely. Kindness, warmth, affection, those things matter deeply. But when they're backed by a sense of self-worth, they become even more meaningful. When he knows that your affection isn't coming from a place of fear, but from confidence, that you choose him, but you don't need him, that's what makes him addicted. Because now he's not just wanted, he's chosen. And that's a powerful feeling. When you operate from that space, you're not afraid of losing him. You're not tiptoeing around, afraid to upset him or disagree. You speak your truth. You ask for what you want. You set boundaries. And here's the beautiful part. When you do that, the right man won't be pushed away. He'll be pulled in. He'll respect you more. He'll value you more. Because he'll see that he's not just with a beautiful woman, he's with a woman who knows her value. That is the kind of woman who stays in a man's mind long after she's walked out the door. So stop thinking you need to burn yourself out to keep someone warm. Stop thinking you have to give more and more and more to prove your worth. You don't. You already are worthy. What you bring to the table, your heart, your mind, your joy, your energy, that's already enough. The key is to know it, believe it, and protect it. Because when you do, you'll naturally create the kind of connection that doesn't just feel good, it lasts. And that's what gets him addicted to you, not just for a moment, but for the long haul. Most people think that if you want someone to stay hooked on you, you just have to be consistently kind, sweet, and always show up with the best version of yourself. But here's the truth. It's not consistency in emotion that creates addiction. It's contrast. Think about your favorite movie. It's not just 2 hours of happiness or intensity or sadness. It's a journey. It takes you through highs, lows, surprises, moments of tension, then release. It's that emotional roller coaster that makes you feel something unforgettable. And that same principle applies to relationships. If someone experiences just one flat emotional note with you, no matter how pleasant, it doesn't stick, it doesn't leave an imprint, it becomes predictable. And predictability, no matter how nice, doesn't create addiction. Let me give you a real-life example. There's a woman I once coached. Smart, beautiful, had a great career. She came to me saying, I always treat guys well. I'm caring, supportive. I show up. I don't play games. But they always lose interest. And when we dug into her pattern, we found something interesting. She was so focused on being the perfect partner, always agreeable, always available, always positive, that she left no space for emotional contrast. There were no moments where the guy felt challenged, surprised, or even slightly off balance. Everything was just easy. Now, don't get me wrong. Being emotionally stable and kind is incredibly attractive. But if it's the only tone someone experiences with you, it stops creating emotional memory. And emotional memory is what makes someone think about you when you're not around. It's what makes them addicted. So what does emotional contrast actually look like? It means showing up in your full emotional range, not just the parts you think are acceptable or likable. It means you're playful, but you can also be serious. You're sweet, but you also speak up when something bothers you. You laugh with him, but you're not afraid to go deep and talk about the things that actually matter. You're not performing a role. You're being real. And real is magnetic. The reason contrast is powerful is because it keeps someone emotionally engaged. When a guy experiences different sides of you, it activates different parts of his brain. One day, you're being cheeky and teasing him a little, and he's drawn into your playful energy. Another day, you're sitting on the couch having a vulnerable conversation about your past, and he's drawn into your emotional depth. In another moment, you're being assertive, setting a boundary when something doesn't sit right with you, and he respects your strength. That's how you keep him hooked, because now you're not one-dimensional. You're someone he's constantly learning about. You become a story he wants to keep reading. This doesn't mean being emotionally volatile. It's not about creating drama. It's about letting yourself be fully expressed. And I get it. Sometimes we hold back certain parts of ourselves because we think if I show him this side, he might think I'm too much. Or what if I push him away? But the truth is, holding back makes us less memorable. It makes us blend in. And the moment you start blending in is the moment someone stops feeling compelled to pursue you. You have to trust that your authenticity is not a liability. It's the edge that makes you stand out. The woman who gets him addicted is the one who's not afraid to be human. She's not playing the role of the cool girl who never gets bothered. She's not trying to be endlessly easygoing or agreeable. She can flirt, laugh, challenge him, open up, disagree, be silly, be passionate, all in one dinner conversation. That's the magic. And when a man feels all of that from you, when he experiences the richness of who you are, it creates a dynamic he can't replicate with just anyone. It's not just she's pretty or she's nice. It becomes there's something about her I can't shake. That's the line. That's when he's hooked. Not because you tried to impress him, not because you played some strategy, but because he felt something with you he doesn't feel anywhere else. So ask yourself, are you letting him experience your full self? Or are you curating a version of you that's safe, easy, and likable? Because the truth is, real connection doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in those moments of contrast. When you go from laughing together to sharing something vulnerable, when you shift from playful to serious in the blink of an eye, when you're not afraid to disrupt the moment with honesty, that's where the gold is. That emotional depth, that unpredictability, that willingness to be seen in every shade of who you are, that's what creates addiction. That's what keeps him coming back. Because now, he's not just attracted to how you look or how kind you are. And once you've captured someone emotionally, once they feel all of you and they like how it feels to be around that full expression, they won't just want you, they'll crave you. That's what gets him addicted to you forever. See, one of the biggest mistakes people make, especially early on in dating, is thinking that their effort alone will earn them love. That if they just give enough, prove enough, show how loyal and invested they are, the other person will eventually wake up and say, wow, this is the one. But it doesn't work like that. Love doesn't grow because of how much you chase someone. It grows because of how you make them want to chase you. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about playing games. I'm not talking about manipulation or pretending to be something you're not. I'm talking about a shift in mindset. Because there's something incredibly attractive about a person who's not sitting around waiting for someone else to choose them. There's something magnetic about someone who knows they bring value into a relationship. Not just emotionally, but in how they live, how they move, how they think. When you show up to a relationship already full, already grounded in your own world, in your passions, your friendships, your standards, you radiate a different kind of energy. The kind that says, I'm happy with my life. You're welcome to join me in it, but I'm not depending on you to make it whole. And that right there is what makes someone want to step up, because you're not asking to be completed. You're inviting someone to complement the life you already love. And it's wild how many people haven't figured that out. They show up trying to impress, trying to mold themselves into what they think the other person wants. They stop doing the things they love. They stop hanging out with their friends. They're constantly texting back immediately, always available, always saying yes, even when it costs them something, all for the sake of keeping someone interested. But what really hooks a person isn't that you orbit around them. It's that you've got your own gravity, that you're grounded in your own worth, that you're not giving your time just because they ask for it. You're giving your time because you've decided they're worth it. That's a massive difference. People often confuse generosity with sacrifice. They think being endlessly available is romantic. That the truth is, relationships thrive on balance, on mutual pursuit. When it's all coming from one side, it doesn't feel romantic, it feels desperate. And nobody gets addicted to desperation. They get addicted to challenge, to excitement, to unpredictability, not in a chaotic sense, but in the sense that you keep them on their toes. because you're not trying to be their everything. You're showing up as someone who has everything going on, and that's exactly why they want more. And let's be honest, attraction grows in the space between us. When you're always there, always accommodating, always checking in, there's no space, there's no oxygen for the fire to breathe. But when someone knows you care, and they also feel they have to earn your time, your affection, your attention, now they're leaning in. Now they're wondering, what is it about her that I can't stop thinking about? The answer is, you didn't smother, you inspired. A man stays addicted when he sees a woman who's not afraid to walk away, who doesn't need him to feel complete, who gives because she wants to, not because she's afraid he'll leave if she doesn't. That's not cold, that's self-respect. And that's the kind of woman a man will chase. Because deep down, we all want to feel like we've earned something valuable, that we didn't just stumble into it, but that we had to show up as our best to deserve it. Think about the people in your life who made the biggest impact on you. I guarantee they weren't the ones who just gave endlessly with no boundaries. They were the ones who made you rise, who challenged you, who held you to a higher standard, who had their own life going on and still chose to let you into it. That's the formula. That's how you keep someone hooked, not just for a few months, but for the long run. And here's the kicker. When you start living like this, when your focus is on creating a life you love and inviting someone into it rather than chasing after theirs, you'll realize that the right person doesn't need to be convinced to stay. They'll want to. They'll value you more, not because you chased them, but because you showed them what it means to be with someone who is whole on their own. So no, you don't chase. You live, you grow, you build a life that's so full, so rich, so deeply aligned with who you are, that anyone lucky enough to be part of it knows they've found something rare. You want to make a man addicted? Don't be the one who waits to be chosen. Be the one who knows her worth and chooses herself first. That's what makes him never want to let you go. You know, a lot of people confuse appreciation with validation. And that's a critical distinction when we're talking about what makes a man truly hooked, addicted to you on a deeper level. Because the truth is, a man doesn't stay for the woman who constantly strokes his ego. He stays for the woman who sees him clearly, holds high standards, and genuinely appreciates who he is when he shows up right. Let me break this down. In the early stages of dating, there's this temptation to want to be liked so badly that we start overgiving emotionally. Every text he sends gets a massive response. Every little thing he does is praised like it's groundbreaking. And it's not that kindness or warmth is wrong. Those are powerful. But when it's coming from a place of, please like me, it starts to lose its magic. It starts to feel like validation. And validation, unlike appreciation, is something we give someone because we want them to give us something back. That dynamic, even if it's subtle, creates an imbalance. It puts him in the position of the prize, and you, without even realizing, start to become someone who is constantly auditioning for a role in his life. That's not the energy that creates addiction. The woman who captures his heart, the one he can't stop thinking about, isn't trying to validate him. She's not handing out compliments like candy. She's tuned in. She notices effort, and when she sees something that aligns with her standards, her values, she expresses genuine appreciation. There's a huge difference between saying, "You're amazing, you're so hot, I can't believe someone like you is talking to me," versus saying, "I really admire how you handled that situation with your friend." That kind of loyalty is rare. One is about ego stroking, the other is about character. And men aren't, even the most confident ones, aren't immune to this. Because deep down, the kind of woman a man becomes addicted to is the one who notices the things that matter. The one who acknowledges effort in a way that makes him feel seen for who he is, not just what he looks like or what he does for a living. But let's go even deeper. When you're someone who shows appreciation, not validation, you're creating emotional safety without sacrificing your own value. You're saying, I see you, I value what you just did, and I'm not doing this because I want something, I'm doing it because I genuinely respect it. At the same time, you're not just handing out that kind of appreciation to anyone. And that's what makes it powerful. Because if you're walking around constantly applauding everything a man does, even when he hasn't earned it, what you're really saying is your bare minimum impresses me. And that doesn't make him work harder for your love. It actually makes him put in less effort, because why would he do more when the minimum gets such a big reaction? On the other hand, when a man sees that your appreciation is intentional, that you're not just throwing praise around for attention or approval, it makes him want to earn more of it. It makes him step up. He begins to connect your appreciation with his own growth and actions. And let me tell you, that is addictive. Now, here's where the real strength lies. You don't just reward effort. You notice the things that most people overlook. If he's vulnerable with you, you don't just say, that's sweet. You say, it takes a lot to be that honest. That means something to me. You anchor his good behavior to emotional connection. This is where the addiction forms. Not in the high of your compliments, but in the meaning behind them. Because when a man feels that your appreciation is tied to who he's being and not what you need from him, he starts to crave your presence. He starts to see you not as a woman who's just looking to feel loved, but as a woman who recognizes and reflects back his best self. That's rare. That's magnetic. But don't forget, this only works when it's balanced with standards. Appreciation isn't weakness. You can be soft and still strong. You can say, I loved that you remembered what I said last week, and also say, I expect consistency in how I'm treated. That balance, it's irresistible because it tells him you're grounded in your self-worth. You're not handing out gold stars just because he showed up. You're responding to what feels alive. And here's what makes it even more powerful. Your appreciation isn't afraid to walk away if the behavior shifts, if the respect fades, if the consistency disappears. You're not using appreciation as a hook. You're using it as a reflection of where you genuinely see value. That's what creates trust. That's what makes a man feel like, I've got something amazing here and I don't want to lose it. Because addiction, real emotional addiction, comes from emotional significance. It comes from the moments that feel authentic, intentional, earned. The woman who offers that, she doesn't need to chase. She doesn't need to perform. She just needs to show up fully and own her ability to see him without losing sight of herself. So remember this. Don't feed his ego. Nourish his soul. I talk a lot about this idea of mystery, not in the old school, be aloof and unavailable kind of way, but in the real powerful sense of someone having depth. And that's what I want to dive into here, because if there's one thing that keeps a man hooked, thinking about you when you're not around, it's this. You keep your edge. What does that really mean? It means that you are someone with layers. You're not a puzzle he has to solve, Puzzles get solved and then people move on. You're more like a book he can't stop reading because every chapter reveals something new, something unexpected, something meaningful. When you keep your edge, you're not trying to be someone else. You're just continuing to grow, continuing to surprise, even yourself. A lot of people think once you've attracted someone, once they're interested, the work is done. That's it, right? Not at all. That's where the real connection begins. Because if the connection only exists on the surface, physical attraction, fun conversation, the high of the chase, it fades. What doesn't fade is that sense of intrigue that comes from knowing someone has a rich inner world, that they're evolving and you want to be part of that journey. So how do you keep your edge? You do it by refusing to shrink yourself into a role. When people get into a relationship or even just start dating someone they really like, they often unconsciously begin to mold themselves into what they think the other person wants. Maybe he loves outdoorsy women. So suddenly you're hiking every weekend, even though you'd rather be painting. Maybe he's career-centric, and now you're constantly talking about work when you really love creative expression. And it's not that compromise is bad, it's part of any relationship. But when you start shedding parts of yourself to fit a version of what you think he wants, you start to lose your edge. You flatten out your personality. And the parts of you that would actually make him feel alive and captivated, they get buried. He didn't fall for the idea of you that you think he wants. He fell for the energy you brought when you were fully yourself. That energy is magnetic. It's rare. Most people are walking around trying to be liked. Very few are being them. And when a man sees a woman who is truly in love with her life, with her passions, with her growth, that woman stands out. She doesn't blend in. She can't. Keeping your edge means being endlessly interested in your own growth. When you pursue your passions, when you nurture your friendships, when you learn new things, challenge yourself, even when you fail and try again, that's all edge. Because that tells him she's not stopping. She's not done becoming. It's not about constantly trying to impress or be unpredictable. It's about being rooted in your values and yet ever evolving in your experiences. You can be the calm in his storm and still be the fire that inspires him to level up. That's edge. It's when you can have deep conversations about your dreams, laugh like crazy at the silly stuff, be passionate about something that has nothing to do with him, and bring all of that energy into the space you share. And it's powerful because it makes the connection feel alive. Think about it. If someone can predict everything you'll say or do, where's the excitement? But when you're continuously unfolding, when you're showing him sides of you that even surprise you, he gets that feeling of, wow, I'm still learning her. And when a man feels like he's still discovering you, he's invested emotionally, mentally, physically. He's in. So many women ask, how do I keep a guy interested long term? This is it. You become the woman who is too engaged with her own life to ever become stagnant. That doesn't mean you don't make time for him. It means that when you do, you bring your full self into the space. Not a watered-down version, not a polished persona, but the real, growing, passionate you. And you know what's interesting? The more you show up like that, the more permission you give him to do the same. That's what deepens the bond. He's not just addicted to how you look or how you make him feel in the moment. He's addicted to the feeling of being around someone who inspires him, challenges him, and makes life richer. Keeping your edge doesn't mean being difficult. It doesn't mean playing games or being unavailable. It means being in tune with your own journey so that when someone joins you on it, they're not just falling for who you are now, but for the woman you're becoming. So when you wonder what really gets a man addicted, not for a week or a month, But forever, it's this. It's your depth. It's the way you keep evolving. It's the spark that never dies because you're always feeding it with growth, self-awareness, and authenticity. That's the woman he can't stop thinking about. That's the woman he stays addicted to. You know, one of the biggest myths in dating is that chemistry is everything. And don't get me wrong, chemistry matters. That spark, that magnetic pull you feel when you're with someone, it can be electric. It's what makes you lean in closer, stay up late talking, feel butterflies when they text you back. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Chemistry alone isn't enough to keep someone addicted to you. It's not what makes a man stay. Chemistry can get things started, but it's not what builds a lasting, meaningful connection. You want to know what really gets a man addicted to you? It's the moment he realizes that beyond the attraction, beyond the banter, beyond the physical connection, you see the world in a way that speaks to him, that your values, what you stand for, what you prioritize, how you show up in life are aligned with his at the deepest level. That's when something far more powerful than chemistry starts to happen. Bonding. And bonding, that's the stuff that sticks. See, when a man meets a woman who not only excites him, but also grounds him, he doesn't just think, she's amazing. He starts thinking, she's my person. That shift doesn't happen because of how pretty you look when you laugh or how great the chemistry feels on a Friday night. It happens because he sees a future with you and he wants that future. Because your values create safety, they create a shared direction, and they give the relationship a foundation that chemistry just can't provide on its own. Now, how does this show up in real life? Is when you're both talking about your goals and he hears you say something that mirrors his own ambition. Maybe you say you want to build something that matters. Maybe you talk about how important honesty is in your relationships, or how loyalty isn't just a word to you, it's a way of living. In that moment, a switch flips in his mind. He starts seeing you not just as someone who fits into his now, but someone who fits into his always. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't require any manipulation. You don't have to be anyone other than who you are. But what you do need is clarity. Clarity about what you stand for. Because if you're unclear on your values, or you're willing to bend them to match someone else's, just to keep their attention, you lose the very thing that would have made them stay. That confidence in what you believe, that conviction in how you live your life. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone fall hard for a person they were just kind of interested in at first, because over time, that person showed depth, integrity, standards, a strong moral compass. That's the stuff that sneaks up on someone. That's when a man starts thinking, wait, I can't stop thinking about her. She's unlike anyone I've ever met. Because it's rare. Because most people are chasing chemistry while ignoring compatibility. But the woman who can bring both, that's the woman who changes the game. And it's not about agreeing on every little thing. It's not about being perfect mirrors of each other. It's about being on the same path, even if you walk it differently. It's about knowing that when life throws hard stuff your way, and it will, you're both going to face it with the same kind of heart, the same kind of mindset, that he can trust you to show up the way he would, or in a way that complements him, that your love won't just feel good, it'll feel right. So if you really want to get